Guys, so most missed questions from our inequalities quiz. This is a two-part question. This is the first one. Generally, you guys did really great on these. Please know that if I put a error analysis question, so where you're looking for a mistake, there is always a mistake. If you can't find it, what I suggest you do is take your problem that they worked over to a different piece of paper where you can't see their work and rework it and then go back and compare. So we're going to isolate our x. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. And that's going to give us, our 7s are gone. X is greater than the -2 and +7. If I owe you $2 and I pay you 7, that means you have 5. So the answer should be a +5. Most of you guys had that part right. I will say, what was her error? And that takes a little more understanding and some explanation. Just the correct answer would be x is greater than 5. If you said x is 5, I did take some points away because it's not 5. It's actually every number bigger than 5, starting at 5.00000001. But it is not 5, the answer, because there's not an equal to there. The error would be her combination of positives and negatives, maybe is one way you could say it. She added the 7 and the 2 rather than finding their difference, because one is a positive and a negative would be another way you could write that sentence. They didn't deal with their positive negatives correctly. This is our error here, because here should not be 9. That is, I owe you $2 and I paid you 7. All right, the second one, what did Matt do wrong when solving the following inequality? A lot of people put no error. Again, there's always an error. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to tell you there's a problem and ask you to find it and then not give you one. Our golden rule of inequality would have been your call out here. And remember, the golden rule of inequality is if you divide or multiply by a negative, you must flip the sign. Hopefully you're taking notes, guys. There's a reason that I did not pick a single problem that more than 20% of you missed, okay? So we have that -3. That is a -3 times n. So we did divide by -3, which is perfectly great. That's the inverse of multiplication. The problem is that because that's a division of a -3, remember, divide or multiply by a negative, you have to flip the sign. So the correct answer would be m is less than or equal to -3. So her error, this was a multiple choice question, was that she did not flip the sign, or he did not, sorry, it was Matt, because of the golden rule of inequalities. Did not flip the sign because they divided by a negative. The next one was also multiple choice. The most popular missed answer is 4x's equals 62. 4 consecutive integers, that's numbers that come in a row. X is a single variable. So if x equals 2, just picking a number, that means you're telling me 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 62. This becomes 4x equals 62 when you clean up on this side and combine like terms. That is not going to answer this problem. 4 consecutive integers, your first one is going to be x. Consecutive, the number after that would be x plus 1, because that's how I get from 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Then x plus 2. X plus 3. So that's our 4 consecutive integers. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it looked a little different. It picked up after this step. And this is where we would have combined our x's, which should have given us 4x. Then we have a +1, a +2, and a +3 equals 6. Plus 6 equals 62. And this was the answer you were looking for there. I think hopefully this was just kind of an oops, dummy answer, and they got you and you weren't paying attention. But remember, consecutive integers are not just x's. Just consecutive is x, x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. Just as a reminder, if they happen to be even or odd, because when that's every other number, the first one would be x. The second would be x plus 2. The next would be x plus 4, x plus 6. Because we're going up by 2s because we're counting every other number. Last but not least, I couldn't figure out what the mistake was here, guys, but there definitely was one. So we're just going to work it, and you're going to make sure you take down some notes because it was a pretty good chunk of you missed it. So we are going to make sure we keep the idea of our great divide. Your work may not match exactly to mine, but your answer has to be correct. I like to always move towards the positive x, so this is my bigger x relative to that 11x. So to stay positive, I'm going to move this way. That's a positive 11x, so I'm going to subtract 11x, and that's going to give me 6 is greater than or equal to 3x, because I had 14 and I spent 11, plus 3. Now we're still trying to get that x by itself, so we need to move that positive 3. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. And subtracting 3 is fine. 6 minus 3 is going to give us 3 greater than or equal to 3x. 3x is 3 times x, and that inverse is going to be division of 3. And so our answer is going to be 1 is greater than or equal to x. And I believe some of the answers had 3s and all sorts of fun things in there. If we were to write this in the other order, it would be x is less than or equal to 1. The whole thing would flip over. So if they switch seats, the inequality flips. But again, we're eating the 1 here. And I have had lots of people during tutoring, we've been laughing about it. So like if we call this a fish or an alligator, the fish has to remain in the same body. Like the x has to remain in the fish body no matter which way you write it. Hopefully, guys, if you missed one of those, you figured out where you went wrong. If not, please reach out. These are still very basic, and you need to be ready for the EOC.